I'm going to tell you about the hike from Logroño to Nájera. Now this is another really long one. It was 28 kilometers and it took us 40,000 steps. When we entered Logroño, it's the last couple of kilometers are not beautiful kilometers. It's a little industrial, it's a little behind buildings. Not a great start to the town, although the town is fantastic, but it is completely the opposite when you leave Logroño. For the first, I would say 4 miles, it is just beautiful. It is parks, it is trails with lots of locals walking and riding bikes and walking their dogs. And eventually you get to this big lake and it's a forest area. It's so nice. It's a great way to spend the morning, and I think you'll really love your hike out of Logroño. The rest of the way is very straightforward. You are exposed a lot. There's a lot of sun on you the rest of the day, so be ready for that. Have all your sun gear ready. And at one point, I do want to tell you about a bypass that you can shorten your trip by about 1 kilometer. If you're planning to go all the way to Nájera, you can skip the town of Ventosa. I hear you should not skip the town of Ventosa because it's beautiful and there's a lot of art along the path getting there, which people have enjoyed. We decided we would rather save the kilometer because we were getting tired. And so what we did was, when you'll get to an intersection, the road continues to go straight, or if you make a left, the road will take you to Ventosa. And there's a lot of signage there, so it's easy to find. But if you keep going straight, you'll eventually get to a little rest area, and then you'll keep going, and then you'll meet up with the trail that comes out of Ventosa. You'll save yourself a little bit of walking if that's what you need to do. Let's see, we stayed that night in Nájera in Albergue Las Peñas. This one was cheaper. It was only 30 euros for a private room with a shared bath. It was a lovely place. It's in a good location, right on the Camino as you're exiting the town. So you hop on the trail and you're right out of town. It's a nice location. Small, but friendly spaces. It did have our least favorite beds we've had so far. They weren't all that comfortable, but it could have just been the room we were in. For food, we did groceries all day, but we did stop in Navarrete. And in Navarrete, we bought 2 sandwiches, and those cost us 7 euros for the 2 of them. The town itself is really a cute, pretty town. It's right on a little river. The old town is nice. There is a monastery there that is so impressive, and it's a lively town. Some of these towns feel a bit sleepy. This town seemed very lively, so it was fun to walk around and see all the people. I also did a little extra hiking myself. The hills behind the town are this beautiful red cliffs, and you could climb up, and there's a cross on the hill, and that was a really nice hike too. Today I'd like to give out a shout out to Sue, who is a birder, and her son Eric, who is not a birder, but he was indulging his mom in her pastime. You know how much I love the birding, and I have been doing it the whole way. It was nice to meet another birder.
Buen Camino. So if you are anything like we are, one of the concerns you're probably thinking about before you get here, if you've never done it before, is how am I going to know where to walk? And the answer is it's usually a lot simpler than you think it's going to be. Most of the way is very well signposted. You come up to an intersection, and there's different ways that different towns do it. In general, you're going to be looking for a yellow arrow that will point you the direction you need to go. Sometimes it's a shell, sometimes there's a sign. Sometimes it's just a yellow arrow painted on a piece of wood or on a fence post or on a railing. There's like different ways that different people do it or different towns do it, but you get really good at looking ahead for them. So often we'll be coming up and we can see the intersection ahead and we're like, where are we gonna be going? And you just start scanning, and eventually you're gonna get close enough where your eye is gonna pick up wherever that arrow is and it tells you where to go. There's been a handful of places where like you're not really sure, but then you kind of just go on faith. Very quickly you are going to see the arrow. Sometimes, you know, they get faded. That'll be in the bushes, and then the bushes kind of overgrow it, so you can't see it until you're like right on top of it. That's happened a couple of times. We didn't discover this until a couple of days, I think, into our route. Is look at the apps. The apps have really good maps on them. The one that we use is called Camino Ninja. It's worked really well for us. And really all I use it for is the map. So I put in my start city, my end city, and then it just opens up a map, and it's got a red line to tell you exactly where the way is. And so as long as you have GPS on your phone, I mean, it finds where you are and you can see directly, am I on the red line? You just look for the red line, you know where you're going. So that has a couple places where we just weren't quite sure. I just open the app, I look at it, it tells us where we need to be. I know which way we're going. Again, 9 times out of 10, we go that way, and within seconds we see where the way marker is anyway. Like, you don't have to stress too much about getting lost. Another thing, especially if you're in cities, because sometimes that's the hardest. You're in the city and there's so many signs. People will point you in the right direction. They know where you're going. And if you look lost, especially in the big towns, that's where people have been really vocal about, they'll call to us from across the street and point us in the right direction. It's not hard to find the right way. Buen Camino, like, this route has been here for 1,000 years. It is very well marked. It is very usually obvious where you're going. So I hope that makes you feel better. You're not going to get lost. There's lots of other people that you're going to be following a lot of the way. But even if you get on one of those stages where you're kind of by yourself, like, if you were really concerned, just stop and sit down for a while. And within a couple of minutes, someone's probably going to pass you anyway. And then you can confer with them or just watch where they go. So you're not going to get lost. You're going to be fine. Buen Camino. And it is well worth your time to come on the Camino. So I hope that helps. We do a video every day as we walk the Camino. I will put the playlist right up here if you want to get caught up. Buen Camino. Today.